Okay, good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's okay. Can you just make sure you can hear me and it's not too quiet or something like that? But how's everyone doing? How has everyone been since, I suppose, Tuesday, which is when we had a bit of a last detailed discussion? I'm going to I swear I'm going to change it up this time. Like, I feel like the Fridays have suddenly just become an annex of the Tuesdays, and we probably spent a bit too much time on that. So I really just want to focus on the charts and actually charting, because that's what this one is always supposed to be about. And yeah, we end up talking about news and all sorts and sentiment and everything, which we can't always excuse, but we'll try and be a little bit better on that one. I do want to just open up with NVIDIA because it is a sentiment one, I get that, but we're going to focus it from the chart point of view. NVIDIA's earnings came out on Wednesday night. For all intensive purposes, good earnings. Positive revenue, expectations of the future, not really diminish everything else. And then yet, what do we see? The very next day, a massive red candle as the market just decides that it wasn't necessarily happy with that. And obviously there were fundamental issues within that. We've talked the last couple of weeks about how we're just trying to the markets are potentially trying to revalue AI. But the point I'm just trying to sort of make with NVIDIA is don't allow this just the one day reaction immediately after an earnings to sort of dictate it. Well, the earnings are out now. Okay, that was all based on Q4. We're already in Q1 anyway. And now it's just a case of let's just see how the market develops over the next couple of days. It is important because NVIDIA has carried the market for the last year and a half. So we just need to see it. But if you actually look and go down the hourly, you can see we gapped down into the open and we absolutely dropped down the first hour and then we slid. Just wait. Gaps normally get filled. We'll have to have a look at how this one plays out. But it was a good earnings call, ultimately. Maybe people are just sort of getting tired of that. But I would argue what's probably happened, good earnings call, people are just taking profits, markets reopened to a bunch of sell orders, and that's done a cascade. This will flip itself around. I'm absolutely certain of that one. So I'm not necessarily writing that off. The question of whether or not NVIDIA can save Bitcoin, well, Bitcoin that was already moving on Wednesday. And again, I'm not going to talk about it today in too much detail, but you go into Twitter, Jane Street being sued and people putting two together and sort of suggesting that we finally caught the big fish, the market manipulator is done, and now Bitcoin is free to climb. And I might talk about it in a bit more detail on Tuesday, but let me just explain to you just very quickly. There's people talking about Jane Street being the cause of Luna, and I'm sure they had some minor involvement in terms of sales and everything else. But the Terra Luna crash, 2022, it's a long time ago. Some of you may not have even been in the market there. We covered that in detail, and we absolutely covered the FTX. So I feel like I know a little bit about it. But ultimately, the issue with Terra Luna was a liquidity imbalance, okay? And the sort of the liquidity pools that have been created, the sort of 20% APY, all that kind of stuff. And what happened is the value of the UST slipped below $1, and then there's a cascading effect. And I'm sure the likes of Jane Street decided they needed to sell. They had bigger sales than anyone else. That caused a rush on the market and things came down. But they certainly weren't the only ones. So to suggest that a liquidity provider, has been caught, or whatever you want to call it, is potentially being sued, is now means that Bitcoin is free to climb. They've been the ones that are suppressing it. I think it's completely out of the realms of possibility. For me, I will look into it in more detail. Maybe we'll go and have a revision of that on Tuesday. But, this news broke on Wednesday. Bitcoin had been falling for 3-4 months anyway. I just don't really see how we're matching the two together. And Bijan put that meme on Discord about, the 7 other ideas of how the market was going to rally. But now that we finally caught Jane Street, and I would argue that 99% of everybody in crypto had no idea who Jane Street was until Wednesday. And so now suddenly that they've been caught means that Bitcoin's free to rally. I don't buy it. We'll leave it there, but I might look into it in a bit more detail later on. What I do want to focus on is some charting, and we'll have a look at Bitcoin. So we'll start 12-hour time frame here. And this is a bit of an interesting one because on Tuesday, we talked about the fact that we were at the bottom of this range. We came down, we hit this range here, which tied in with the 618 on the 2.5-year fib level. I mean, and I sort of said, look, if anytime there's a chance for a bounce to sort of 70, 71,000, this is it. And I did, in fact, decide I was going to go long. Got in around about 64,000, got out at about 69,000. The move happened far faster than I expected, but within 3 candles, we were back up at 70,000 and then came back down. Matter of fact, it was a 24-hour period. If we go down onto the 1 hour, what did it start? It's Wednesday. Tuesday, so that's 2 o'clock. We were doing the call here, so yeah, around about there. There's sort of 3 hours where it was around about 64,000 in the evening after the call. And as I say, you know, it was just pretty much climbing, maybe off the hype of what the news had broke. Who knows? But ultimately, you take away that news. We'd already talked about the fact we've come down, we've hit this range bottom, we've hit a fib level. We're expecting the market to sort of bounce, and it's what it does there. The problem being, we got to 70,000, and then we went no further. And I suppose that's the issue right now, isn't it? This is what I'm on 12 hours. It's not the best time frames for looking at fibs. But if you look, all we managed to do was just climb back up to the 20 EMA and reject back off that. I don't have the 10 EMAs on this because Stephen Chart will have a look at that in a moment. But you can quite clearly see we found the bottom, and then we found this bottom here. We've come back up, and the first real sign of resistance, we rejected from it, and we rejected pretty much back down to this level where we're now flirting below on the fib level. So as nice as that was to see, and obviously an opportunity to play out, not every trade does, what's really gone and happened here is we've shot up, but we have still not made a higher high. We're still, that was supposed to be a straight line. We're still finding some sort of, you know, resistance down here. We're not really breaking through that with any force. Anything that is pretty much sold once we get through that. And as I say, there is something controlling us here. And when we look at the 10 EMA, you're actually going to see that this 10 EMA line is like this. It's really suppressing how the price is moving. So absolutely no surprise whatsoever. Nothing has changed on the 12-hour daily point of view. If you don't want to really look at your charts over the weekend, set yourself an alert. Over 72,000, open your charts up, see if there's a move potentially up to 80,000. We lose 62,000, so set your alert for sub 62,000. Then open up your chart, see if you need to take some action. They're the 2 big picture levels. They've stayed the same. I'm going to keep them there. If you want to refine it and be a bit more aggressive, then change it to 70K. And just if it goes above 70K, have a look at it. Maybe you can catch a bit of a better move there. But that's sort of how I'm seeing Bitcoin on a bigger picture. We go down, have a look at this chart here. You know what I've just got done? I've lost. Here we go. Sorry. Almost other monitor screen just started flickering off, but it's back. So this is a little bit of ironically, a cleaner chart than that other one because we're not covered in fibs at the moment. But you can see this blue line sort of moving down. That's the 10 EMA on the daily time frame. And as I mentioned, it's been suppressed since. Now, actually, what I will say is we broke through it. We're now resting actually above it. I actually thought it was a little bit higher than this, but we are still resting above it. So there's some hope that maybe we're just building off this position and looking to go, but we are right on it at the moment. Let's just call it 67,200. And the point that we kind of made when we were doing this, I'm going to jump between time frames. I'm sorry. I make no apology of it. But we talked about when we range, what do we love to do? We love to collect vectors. And ultimately, before we pumped up, let's start new. So Tuesday, 12 o'clock, they were the vectors we were talking about. Like, if we stay in this range, we're going to recollect all of those vector candles on the way back up. And that is exactly what ended up happening. The market came up and we took out every single one of those vectors. So this was the last vector line here, and we took it up. But what have we done in the wake? We've gone and left these vectors behind. And so I can't give you a time frame for when it's going to happen. But if we don't break that 70,000 level, we will recollect these vectors. It's just how it goes, okay? Now, that doesn't give you a great entry, excuse me, for the market, because we could go up first beforehand. But I'm telling you, Unless we break, close above 70,000 this week here, whatever you want to look at it at, we're going to come back and reflect these vectors. We've already started. I mean, we're almost halfway through this vector here. So we got down to there, didn't we? So really, that is what is left. Yep. Let's get rid of that one. Those vectors down there are what left. We will come back and challenge us. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that that's what is going to happen. And that, again, presents us with an opportunity and some potential trades to have a look at. Now, again, don't want to talk about fundamentals, but Iran did reject some of the initial negotiations that came out. We know that Trump, if he's going to do it, he doesn't like to upset the markets too much. He might pick a weekend. So bear in mind, Friday today, get rolling into the weekend. The only thing that's going to be open is crypto. So if anything happens, and as we said on Tuesday, the initial reaction for risk on assets when kinetic strikes, as they like to call them, basically bombing, occur, is initially a move down. So certainly something to just also keep an eye on that side if you're that worried about it. But there is, potential from it. Back onto sort of the daily. Let's just get rid of this. I mean, even on the daily candle, we've got a green vector candle there. So at some stage, yeah, it looks like we're probably going to try and have an opportunity to take that. Now, if we do look from a daily point of view, I just want to stress that as nice as that move has been, we have been here before. We had this huge fall down start of February, didn't we? We bounced back up, we ranged a little bit. And then beginning of this week, another fall, and we pretty much recovered it the next day. Okay, it was 48 hours rather than 24. But the point being is it provides a little bit of relief. People get a little bit excited again, perhaps a bit too giddy. But the human nature, we quickly forget about the pain that we suffered in the first place. And the reality of it is that move up was next to nothing. This was even to the full week, it was a 10% move after, a 40% drop. So I'm not sure why we're sort of getting too excited. I don't think in our group we are getting too excited. We kind of know where we are with it. But I see sort of this, sentiment out there right now. 4-year cycle is broken. That was the bottom of 60K was the bottom of the bear. We're going back up. For me, the chart is suggesting that we actually haven't found the strength to get back up yet. Okay, we haven't. We've ranged, and when we range, we're going to go to the highs and the lows of that. But when we get to these highs, whether it be TA, whether it be manipulation, whatever, sellers are stepping in. Okay, people are not wanting to go any higher, and they're selling there, and the price comes back down. So I would just be wary with what it is. For me, as I say, we get above 72, we can start talking about that. But even on the daily time frame, I mean, the 50 EMA is down at 75 already. It's actually not that far away, and that's the problem you have is, the severity of the fall that we experienced at the beginning of February is starting to catch up with us now because we're 28 candles into the 50 EMA. So the steepness is actually going to start to pay off. A lot of this, sorry if this is a 101, but the 50 EMA before was based a lot on this ranging candles where we just kind of move sideways. And as we tick to the right time-wise, these ones fall away and suddenly we start talking about this section of 50 candles. And that's why this starts to fall down. I appreciate that is, really noddy, but there's going to come a time where it's this and whatever is out to that side, and this will probably tip down. I mean, we have ranged here, so it's going to balance it out a little bit, but don't be surprised if it is. And the point I'm trying to make is the 50 EMA daily time frame, she is a guardian of price right now. We may be able to dip our head above it for a little bit of time, but not often. And actually in bear markets, it's generally just the relief rally point to it. So there's that to consider. I mentioned Tuesday, I do expect some sort of relief rally. I was kind of hoping that the relief rally would be to the high 70,000s. It may well still be that place, of course, which is why we set the alerts at 72, just see what happens from that. But right now, this to me is building for, we've had this move up, we're starting to consolidate with a rejection, and it's a pattern that we've seen before, red vector candle, green vector candle recovery, couple of days to recover, to sort of just get over the shock of such positive and negative price action, and then it just slowly ekes down. And that's where I see it. Now, the only thing I would say perhaps, and there's not many touch points, but maybe the range is shrinking. Maybe that's the range, from daily opens to daily closes, and we only go down to 64,500. That's just how you want to draw it, wicks or bodies. I'll leave that to yourselves. Dropping onto some lower time frames, we'll go down all the way down to the hourly. See if we can actually see anything from this. Sorry, I've got to make it at least a little bit bigger, but try and also get some other data. Let's just get rid of that for now. So we've had that, I'd say, that move up, and what did we do? We came back down to the 50 EMA. Again, what's nice? What did we talk about? What do we want to see? Breaking the 50 EMA with green vector candle, comes back up, nice move up here. And we're just slowly drifting down. So far, it's a 50% recovery of that move up, kind of what we would expect to happen. So we've really got to step in now. And the bottom of this cloud, 50 EMA, 200 EMA, all pretty much on top of each other, because on the hourly, we're ranging sideways. We've got to hold it. We've got to hold 67,000. It's the 200 EMA right now, bottom of the cloud kind of area. This needs to stay, okay? We start moving down to this, it's suddenly these vectors, and there's not really much there. The RSI has room for us to move down. We're kind of at 40, it's pretty much middle of the pack. We could go in either direction from this. I don't think that we're oversold, because we're absolutely not. But if we can't hold the 67,000 level, then that is the direction I'm afraid we're going to head down towards, or obviously because we're not holding it, but this is the kind of range I'd be looking to, just a complete recovery of the move that we made on Tuesday, Wednesday. Let's just leave that there. I know Reese asked me to have a look at some tokens Zeke, and we'll have a look at that, my friends. Just double check. No, you didn't. Okay, fine, sorry. All right, let's move on to BitTensor, because BitTensor's, we've seen some positive direction, and I did see some of the comments in the chat about Sod's Law. You make a sell and it moves up, and that happens to me. A prime example, when I sold at 64,000, it moved up to 70 almost immediately afterwards. If you're making the decision to have that sidestep, it's not I'm going to rebuy back in an hour's time. You make the decision, balancing on the risk, and you wait to see how things come. So don't necessarily knee-jerk reaction from that. But just back onto BitTensor, where we left things on Tuesday, we were actually down at 164. Since then, we've actually been at 192. So, and actually, I'm trying to do the maths there, but pretty much a 15-20% increase. Is that right? Probably, yeah. Just shy of it. So not a bad little move there. And what I will say, let me just clear these lines. They're safe, so they'll come back on. But let's just try and tighten up a bit. We've had this move down, which I was, not very positive about. We had this nice move back up, rejected from the 50 EMA, come back down, found the new bottom, and then we moved up. The white is not helping us here, is it? Let's just change that. Okay, well, it'll be changed for next time. The point I'm trying to make, actually, though, is for all the shit talking I've been giving BitTensor's price action, what I will say, what happened there? It's supposed to be yellow. Is we're starting to break that trend a little bit. So we have formed a lower high, a higher low even. Sorry. I don't think there'll ever be a time where I don't get those the wrong way around when they leave my mouth. So from a sentiment point of view, I can't write that off. Good, well done. However, the battleground still has to be that 200 level, 204 as it sits at the moment, that 50 EMA. And actually, we get above 200 and a close, then we can start talking about a higher high as well, which is what we need, isn't it, to break the trend and move back up. And slowly, nice. That's the way we can do it. We'd actually prefer that way, a bit of a sort of a less volatile move up. But I much as I've used it for negative in the past, at least we're actually seeing a little bit of life to this for potential opportunity for a climb back up. Now, I'm going to go onto some lower time frames in a moment. I'm not sure how well that picture looks, but from this point of view, I'm absolutely fine with it. Again, RSI middle of the pack, and the potential to go there. Just got to get past that 50. A bit like with Bitcoin, the 50 has just held us. I mean, last time we genuinely broke the 50 EMA was November when we made it up to 500. I know we did a little bit in January, but we were within the cloud and we didn't really get past that. I'm going to say that wasn't a genuine break. So, yes, a move back up to it to retest it, although there's an argument to be had that we actually did that back on mid-Feb. But yeah, I'd like to see that continue to climb back up. No, that doesn't mean I'm getting back in. I will just see how things play out with that. My view is not changed in terms of where the market is and also how that will impact altcoins, but I will happily trade. I will happily trade if there's an opportunity that comes my way. We moved down to timeframes. Sorry. And now we're starting to see a little bit of a clearer picture. It gets a little bit, not worse, but I think the picture clears up a little bit more when we get onto the hourly. Suddenly, when we start going on the 4 hour and we have a look at the 200 EMA, we can actually see the yellow line there. That we can see what's holding us back. So back on the daily, we didn't know why we were being turned around here. You know, here and here and here and here. It wasn't that clear, but go on the 4 hour, suddenly, actually, it's staring us square in the face. Wow, there we go. 208 seems to be acting. So that's another barrier for me. It's worked so well, even on that nice run up that we had mid-February. And actually now, when we're starting to identify targets, 193, I mean, that's the one. As soon as we get to this 200 EMA, the sellers are stepping in and looking to reject it. We're not overbought, so it's fine. There's still room for us to climb up, should we get that way. And we are the right side of the 50 EMA. So, we could easily turn around here because the 10, the 20, and the 50 on top of each other. But even a move down to 180 is not the end of the world. It's only $2 away from where we are at the moment. We've been down. We've retouched this 50 EMA. The question is actually, can we get through this? That's where we need to be looking. And we could draw some other, TAs and support resistance. But that's it. That's what's holding us back at the moment. So let's just see whether or not we can break through that on the way up. There's one other thing that I only just noticed it when I was cycling through before we went on. And I don't know if people can see it. I see it. Maybe I'm just seeing things because I'm that way inclined. But I just wonder, this triple top, is it actually a bit of a head and shoulders, actually? Is there a head and shoulders? I don't know where I draw the net. Would it be there? We still got room to come down? Or could I have it on an angle? I'm not sure. So, but I'm just wondering, those rejection points at the 200 EMA that we talked about, when you actually look at it, the first one was lower than the middle one, and then the right-hand side one was showing weakness, it was lower again. So it is forming, to me, two shoulders and a head. We'll have to wait and see with that. But down on the hourly, we are resting quite nicely on the 50 EMA. We've got the 200 as a bit of support, which is tying in around about 180. It's actually 179. So we'll see. Now, if we do come down here, then that really does sort of suggest that probably is the neckline. And the reason I say that is if you wanted to then do TA from it, peak of the head to the tip, where's that taking us? It's taking us right back to the range that we were over the weekend, back down to 164. So if Bitcoin's potentially looking to recover all of the gains that it's made this week, then there's certainly some TA that's stacking up for BitSense to do that. Now, it's TA, so it's not guaranteed. There's plenty of things that can turn it around. The 50 EMA, which we're resting on at the moment, the 200 EMA down there, absolutely. But we start losing that 180 level, so 179 becomes important because it is the 200 EMA, it is the base of support, and after that, there's not much support resistance locally before that vector candle, and then things are starting to tie in with what we talked about with Bitcoin. So I think that's something certainly to consider there. Let me just have a cup of tea. It's a cup of tea morning rather than a glass of water. Although it's already cold. I can't drink cold tea. Right, okay. There we go with that one. I want to have a talk about Pippin because this is just one of those mistresses that she is cool and kind at the same time. So This on the hourly. I mean, we'll put it on. I think we'll start on the hourly because this is what I use. So when I'm trading, I sort of try and find trades on the hourly and then I go lower because I'm not in my trades for very long. And the problem with Pippin is it can do nothing and then it has this massive green candle on the hourly. It just moves. And suddenly you just find yourself like, oh, was that really the right time to get in, to get out? So Wednesday, I went to see Josh Riddit on Wednesday. Went to see his AI warehouse, which was just incredible. But anyway, so I sort of was checking on my phone, watching the price going down. I was looking for an entry. I was like, I'll get the 50 EMA. And then when I looked at it, we were already up here. I was like, 82. No. Wait for it to come back down. As soon as it did, I put a long in and we started drifting lower. And I was just like checking my phone all the time. I just didn't feel it. So I closed it. I closed it at a little bit of a loss, $47 loss, I think it was, down at like 74. And then the second I closed it, it just flew up. And it's just one of those ones where there are times where because I don't like to leave trades open unless they've been established whilst I'm not looking at the charts, I just close them. And it just always seems to be sod's law that you do it. And the moment you do it, or an hour later, the thing absolutely flies from 73 to 92. And that would have been an incredible move. And so, yeah, I lost $50 or whatever from just deciding that wasn't the right trade for me to be in. But the return I could have hit from just the reason I was wanting to target the 50 EMA because I was looking for a reset of the RSI. Price action's done very well when it hugs in around the 50 EMA, using the cloud as sort of like the level of my stop loss, which I was. I closed it at before it even hit my stop. I just kind of like, it's not the right way. And then I was, right, well, I'll wait for the 50 EMA again. Now, I didn't open a trade this time because 50 EMA hit at 4 a.m. and I wasn't up. By the time I woke up, 7 o'clock, we've already through it. And I'm sort of like, now I've missed that whole short opportunity, really. It feels like it is oversold. And so I'm waiting for it to turn around. And the point now I'm trying to make is normally I'd go off something like the 200 EMA, but we've actually already lost that. And it's just trying to pick an entry. So what I'm looking to do, for as long as I'm at my computer, I would now be going down to the lower time frames and I'll just watch it. And I'm looking to see the confirmation it's reverse, okay? So I will happily wait for it to get back into 70 cents or whatever it needs to be for me to be happy. This thing's found a bottom and it's starting to turn around. That works whilst you're sat at your computer because, as Pippin does and others as well, it can move incredibly fast. But I suppose the point of that is trading. Sometimes you just have to accept that you lost something. Everything can be right except for the time. And we are humans. We have to sleep. We have to have a life and do something else. You just miss it. And the point then is just don't trace it. It doesn't matter what point you enter. You're not buying this spot. So it doesn't matter what the actual price is. The conditions are what matter. And it's just about patience. And I kind of have to say that to myself out loud because I still find myself at times wanting to rush into things. But it has been a very, then we go on to the daily. And what's actually happened? All it's done is pull back to the 10 EMA. I mean, it's nothing. It feels like there's a 16, 17% drop today, which feels catastrophic. But actually, all we've done is come back to the 10 EMA. Problem is, if the 10 doesn't hold and we drop down to the 50, it's another 15% drop. And trading it, there's where the risk is. So if you are going to trade something as what feels as volatile on the lower time frames, but when you look on this, not very volatile at all, have an idea of what your exit strategy is, both when it's right and when it's wrong. Right, anyway, leave that one there. Reese asked me to look at Zcash. Now, I don't know if you're on the call. I did ask you a follow-up question because you said there's a falling compression, I think. Was it a rising compression? Falling compression, yeah, that's right. And I was like, is it on the day? Because I suppose I think you're suggesting something along the lines of this. I don't know, something like that is what I would suppose you're suggesting. And I can't necessarily argue with it. The uppermost, this band here, I kind of, yeah, I like that one. This one, I'm not the biggest fan of, just because I feel like we forced the joint there. You know, that would be better, but even that, I mean, it's still falling compression, I suppose. There's plenty of touch points. Maybe you get all the way down to sort of, I mean, it's not far from where we are now. It's only another $10 or so. But then, you know, it's like, well, it kind of just conveniently ignores this bit here. But that being said, there does seem to be some sort of falling within the price. And I'm just trying to ascertain if that is a falling compression or actually what it is. I think I probably know my answer is it's just a continuation of the downtrend. Yes, there is a falling compression here, but we could have drawn similar. Could we have drawn it? Yeah, similar things here. You know, before it played out, we could have gone like, oh wait, no, there's some sort of random compression here, isn't there? We're going to hit the apex. It's just, I should have done this the other way. Start new. You know, we could have quite conceivably found an excuse for this and been like, yep, price action is going to come down here, and then that's the move. And when in reality, actually, it's just in a continued downtrend, and what happened was it just fell through. So I'm not disputing that there's a potential for a, why won't this just delete? For a falling compression there. But I'm also at the same time conscious that we may have forced that second leg, and actually what we're really seeing is just strong selling from rejections of the 50 EMA. Now, the other side to that is there is something here. You know, something is holding this afloat. I mean, look at how uniform this was for a full week of just down at this sort of 230 level, and we've had a couple of attempts and we've not lost it since. And so maybe there is an argument that we actually will see a move up here, which would tie into your falling compression theory. It's a falling compression in a falling market, and I suppose that's why I'm reticent on it. But actually, is there just, we're going to have another move back up to the 50 EMA? Because we can't break through this support, and people are just going to you know, feel that sort of, I don't know, that's what I'm looking for, not compression. Anyway, it's going to make that move up, and that would be a big move. I mean, that's pretty much 20, I don't know, 30 odd % move up. It'll be a nice. Oh, I could have just drawn it, couldn't I? 33% move up. Be a good move from that. So I'm not ruling it out. I haven't really looked at Zcash in a while. All my focus, and maybe I need to change that strategy, but all my focus has just been on Pippin, because Zcash was good to us, but I just like to ride the momentum. There's an argument who said, well, there's the momentum down right now. But we do see these sort of knee jerks up. So yeah, if it comes to the 50 EMA, maybe there's an opportunity for me to look at a short on that. But I'm not willing to place a long on it, if I'm being perfectly honest. I'll go down some lower time frames, just have a quick look. I'm gonna have to, probably can do another 15 minutes, but I'm gonna have to go at some stage. I've got to head out. In terms of the 50, I think it's probably still there. Again, you know, this has come back up, hit the 50 EMA, come back down, we're losing it. There is definitely a battleground here. You know, wherever you want to draw that line, sort of around about 230, hold on to that, then fine, may have another attempt in a move, but a loss of it, and we're maybe looking 200 or below just to come back. I mean, there's no vector here, but there was a vector on the daily for down this. I wonder, we didn't draw one. Where would I take it from? I'm trying to see if I can put a fib on. Maybe that might give us a bit of a clue. I mean, we don't know that that's the bottom. That's the problem. All right, just spitballing there. Anyway, let's just drop that down. Let's have a look at Ethereum. We'll have a look at, we probably won't look at any other alts, but maybe have a look at some of the other sort of charts, if you will, dominance, etc. So Ethereum, again, I mean, the whole market moved on Wednesday, and it's had that nice move up there, but very similar. The 10 EMA. I mean, Ethereum, to be fair to Ethereum and Bitcoin, they have been playing out remarkably similar for pretty much this year. So it's come back through it still is making ever so slightly. But you remember how on Bitcoin I was able to draw it like this. This is more like, I mean, it's there. It's still on a slight angle, so we are still ever so slightly making lower highs. But I feel like this box is a lot better, a lot more complete within that. There's still the vectors down there, which would suggest we can't get through this 200. Sorry, this 20 EMA. We're going to come back and pretty much just recover that entire move, and I'd be looking at somewhere around about 1850 for the base of that. Again, we can't get too excited. Let's be generous and try and give ourselves a bit of room. We daily close above 2,100. We can then have a look at a move. I'm not sure why I drew this line. Maybe something to do with just bases down there. Okay, it was. But ignoring that line for now, just delete it. It's the 50. It's just fallen so fast. It's only $400 away from where we are at the moment, which is only 20% move for Ethereum right now. So definitely something to consider there. I'd say there's obviously a few vectors that could come from it, but I'd be looking at a daily close above 2,100 as maybe an alert set to see if there's anything you can do if you're interested in Ethereum. I mean, I'm not really too fussed about any of the others. Oh, do you know what? Near and Polkadot, they had massive moves, like relative, but they were like 33% up. We can actually see that Near found its 50 EMA, and then look how clean that rejection off it is. It's right into it and move. And as I say, in terms of the size of the move, yeah, this is a 30% move on the day, and then obviously already made a 50% recovery of that one. I don't have Polkadot on my charts anymore, but a similar sort of thing. In terms of everything else, so we've got Bitcoin dominance, still finding its low. In my opinion, still battling with USDT and stablecoin dominance rather than Ethereum and the rest of the alt markets. And we can see that Ethereum actually climbed far higher than Bitcoin did, or faster, sorry, on Wednesday. But generally, we zoom out, it's still tracking down, and it has been for a considerable amount of time there. Others, so everything outside of the top 10, even with that move up, we're still only sitting. I mean, I don't know whether I'm taking the mick here by saying only 175 billion, but at the same time, market cap of what is it 2.3 trillion at the moment? Wait for it to load. So it's down at the bottom now. 2.3 trillion. I tell you, these numbers just stick to me. Okay, so it's a really small amount others have, and the amount of tokens that spread across, just yeah. But again, we're just it's the same patterns. It's why I feel like I repeat myself quite a lot. But the same things are controlling the narrative on the way down. Wednesday, obviously, USDT fell as people move back into alts. But this is kind of the reverse now, isn't it? We've been supported by the 20 EMA, waiting to break the 10 for potentially another move up. Now, in the history of USDT, this is back to 2016. We are at the highest points in terms of dominance that we've been. Now, yeah, okay, they keep on making it, but we've never seen above 10% dominance for USDT. It'll be uncharted territory, which is not a great place to be. We're at the heights. There's an argument to say we're at the highs. Typically, when we get this high, it signals the end. I would argue, still in 2020, October 2023, we were higher than we are now. So that was the first year of the bull run. There's still time for us to either move sideways and stay here or climb higher. In terms of some of the other things, so we're seeing the S&P. So we're on the monthly here. Let's just put it on at least the weekly. I mean, 7,000 is pretty much the top. We're 6,886 at the moment. Markets, well, it's the future, so it is open. But we're kind of just sort of curving off. We've not lost anything. I would, from a weekly point of view, I suppose a close below 6,800 might want to just say what's going on here. But yeah, I can't really badmouth. I'm worried about what's good the S&P and the Nasdaq may do, but they haven't done it yet, and we're just ranging. And you can't be like, oh well, I need to be bearish on the stock markets when we're so close to the all-time high and we haven't really had a significant drop off. But at the same time, you know, it doesn't take much of a nudge to potentially move us there. So I think that's just something to look at. Same with the Nas, it's fallen slightly more than the S&P. You know, it's in distance away from its all-time high. Currently is 5%, whereas the S&P, of course, it's zoomed out now, is 2%. So there's a little bit of a difference there, but not too much. Gold, long and strong. Silver, I mean, that this pullback to 65 might turn out to be an absolutely epic buying long opportunity there, because actually since then it's shown some real strength, and again, that geopolitical instability right now is just going to mean that precious metals have the upper hand. Yes, there'll be pullbacks, but they'll have the upper hand. I need to get back into these. And then some of the others, Circle, very strong earnings report. Well, sorry, reaction to the earnings report. But look at the surprise, 161% surprise there. No surprise that that was going to be what happens. The concern is, look at the gap we left behind from 63 to 72. I'm a holder of Circle, so obviously I'm happy to see that, but I'm concerned that we may be there. I'm about break even now because I actually bought 120, but I also bought quite a lot at 60. So we've kind of balanced ourselves out a little bit. NVIDIA, let's just see how, I mean, pre-market is for climb open a little bit. Be interesting to see how that one plays out. Palantir, we're not, Tesla doing so. I'm not really going to go through these because they're just part of the pension pot, longer term ones. MicroStrategy. Oh, actually, I did want to talk about Coinbase because that one seemed to have a decent move up as well. Put it back on the daily. Yeah, same on Wednesday. Good move, but left obviously a bit of noise in its wake. It's got a bit of work to do to, I mean, in just from a TA point of view, it's got to climb. It's got to beat the 50 EMA and the 800 EMA just to get back into this range here and have that conversation, and then the 200 EMA, and then have that conversation about have we reversed the trend. I mean, obviously, hopefully by the time we get up there, we'll be talking about a trend reversal. But it's as nice as that move is, it's potentially there. There's an argument if we zoom in, say maybe there was an inverted head and shoulders there. We've actually broken through the neckline, so maybe we do have some momentum. We'll have to wait and see. That momentum would effectively take us just shy of the 200 EMA. Take-Two Interactive Software, that's sort of the Rockstar thing, the GTA. Still not pulled the trigger on that one. That's annoying because I was watching it at 190. Maybe I should have done that. Anyway, it is where it is. Astrid, for those of you that are in it or interested in it, it's kind of just holding its own around this 50 EMA. Not bad to see. Towex has had some recovery with BitTensor's climb, but it's still kind of in the doldrums a little bit there. And other than that, I think we'll leave it at that because I've got to, as I say, head off. Back to this one, just it's the easiest one to have a look at. As I say, for me, just be cautious of the weekend. Crypto's the only thing open. Who knows what might happen geopolitically. Set those alerts for 70,000 and 64, 62, how you want to do it, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. You get some alerts there. You kind of can sort of read how the market goes. Obviously, for those of you that like to trade, you can't really wait for those. You're going to have to go in a bit more in the weeds. If you have any questions or anything like that, just feel free to send them to me. I will always be around and happy to respond as we see fit. But other than that, enjoy the rest of your weekend, or enjoy your weekend, should I say. And I'll speak to you all soon. Cheers now.